So Marvel Comics can't sell Spider-Man. I'm a little late to the party on this one, but 2 months ago, former Amazing Spider-Man writer Dan Slott said that all new Marvel books are lined up for no more than 5 issues, and if those books don't show positive pre-order sales past issue 2, then they'll be cancelled without warning. Now, of course, there are exceptions to the rule, I'm sure. When the new Ultimate line launched with Ultimate Spider-Man sales numbers being enough for 5 printings, that pretty much guaranteed it a longer life. But most books don't have this level of interest out the gate. We've reached a point where Marvel can't sell a new book about Spider-Man, their flagship character, off of name brand alone. Spider-Man, the character who made over $1 billion at the box office from his last movie, and whose animated version won an Oscar. That character can't guarantee high sales for a monthly comic book. And Dan Slott, despite having one of the longest solo runs on Amazing Spider-Man, and being arguably one of the biggest writers in Marvel's current roster, can't guarantee sales from his involvement. You know, there used to be a time when Marvel told people that they had to buy 3 Spider-Man books every month to get the full story, and instead of the audience telling Marvel to go fuck themselves, they went out and bought all 3. The X-Men line was even more ludicrous with I think 5 books a month, and people ate it up. We're long past the days of side books being guaranteed sellers just off the star power of the character. I think the market might be cooked. But it doesn't have to be. Vinyl, of all things, made a comeback with Gen Z, and those things have been outdated for decades. So if that can make a comeback, comic books can too. Vinyl already used the same bullshit tactics to inflate sales numbers that comics do. Their limited edition color variants are basically the same as comic book variant covers. As I've said in my previous videos, I don't like to critique without offering solutions. So here's what I would do to fix the American comic book industry. Yes, I know I made a video like this before, but that's like 3 years old now, so I really need to update it. Things have changed. First and foremost is to cut back on the number of titles being printed each month. The direct market has been used as a testing ground to gauge what audiences respond to for decades now. But that isn't working anymore, and hasn't for some time. The average normie isn't going to comic book stores. I went to the nearest comic book store yesterday as of writing, and the shelves were filled with unsold stock of all the books that weren't the latest issue of Batman, or the few other titles that have enough of a following to guarantee sales. Some of these books were a few months old, too. They need to do what manga publishers do and offer all of their new material on their Marvel and DC apps right out the gate. Have exciting titles that people want to read, make it easy to get a hold of, and people will pay for convenience. Keep printing the flagship titles, but everything else can get cut. Shueisha does this with their Shonen Jump app. You get the first 3 chapters free, and the rest you have to pay for by subscribing, and they'll offer the latest chapter if the title is still ongoing. Viz Media does the same with their web service. It's the way things are going, and readers seem to prefer it this way. And they'll still print paperback volumes for collectors if the book's a strong enough following. So paper wouldn't be going away entirely. Marvel and DC should mimic this practice. The half measure of offering digital versions day one for the same price as a printed book won't cut it. People will just ask, why would I pay the same amount as a printed copy? And they'll use their money on something else instead. The manga app service model would also be a cheaper way to gauge reader interest since they wouldn't have to spend money on printing comics that might not sell past issue 1. I know that some publishers might be hesitant to do simultaneous releases out of fear of cannibalizing the market. However, vinyl and CD collectors still show up to buy their favorite artist's new work even if it has a digital release the same day. This is where floppies can find a new home with the hardcore collector. Treat floppies with their flagship titles like music companies do vinyl and CD, and I think they just might find a home with the right collector. These publishers just need to rethink their marketing strategy. Which reminds me, actually market your products. I know that with social media, everyone working on the titles are expected to help advertise and push the product onto their followers, but that doesn't mean if the publisher isn't putting in the work to let people know that anything is being printed in the first place. While Marvel and DC do promote their new books on social media, I haven't seen any genuine paid ad for their comic books on any of the apps I doom scroll, and I've seen softcore ads sneak their way onto them. And they're not even good. I see more announcements of new comic books through geek news outlets than I do through Marvel or DC. The publishers can't expect everyone else to do their work for them and reap the rewards. If they don't like my idea for printing less titles, then Marvel and DC could start releasing their new material in anthology books on cheaper paper. It works well for manga publishers. Even if a person only buys the latest copy of Shonen Jump or One Piece, they still have an entire book's worth of reading material, so they might as well check out some of the other stories. Also, despite being full price, a lot of comic books still have issues with ink bleeding and smearing. So are you really getting a premium product? I know that this isn't perfect, and that physical sales for Jump are steadily declining in Japan. Former Jump editor-in-chief Kazuhiko Torishima mentioned this in his book Dr. Mashirito's Ultimate Manga Guide, but they still have their digital market to fall back on, which Marvel and DC seem hesitant to push. The implosion of Comixology, which was considered one of the best comic book apps available, doesn't help either. However, to DC's credit, they seem to be seeing some success with their DC Compact Comics line, which are some of their most iconic stories reprinted on smaller sized books with cheaper paper, with every book priced at $10 across the board. That's the kind of product that'll get curious readers on board with your stories. It's also easier to take with you and read on the bus or a plane. Marvel is experimenting with this kind of product as well, but their output seems more inconsistent and might confuse the average normie customer. They have two budget lines, Mighty Marvel Masterworks for their 60s material, and their Marvel Premiere Collection, which seems to focus on their more contemporary material. I think that this might be a mistake in the long run to separate the two lines, but I guess we'll see. Marvel also really needs to fully commit to collecting a series. They've done like 3 or 4 different collected editions of Ultimate Spider-Man now, all of which have been cancelled and restarted under a new name for some unknown reason. Will this be enough to save the industry? I don't know. If I had all the answers, I'd hire myself out as a marketing consultant. But what I do know is that most people aren't buying comic books anymore. At least not the people I talk to. So something needs to change. It's not enough anymore to rely on an archaic retail system that's monopolized by one distributor. Digital is the way of the future. If these publishers don't do something soon, they might not survive. Though if I'm being honest, the Marvel Shared Universe should have been nuked and reset ages ago. Oops, did I say that?